to get started. Thank you. First of all, we'd like to thank you for being here this evening. We genuinely appreciate your input. Just want to go over some brief ground rules. So we're here actually to hear from you about the proposed budget and where you believe the city's focus should be as it relates to that proposed budget. So in order to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to speak, we have established certain rules with respect to the time and how you testify. We're going to ask you as best possible if you stick to the subject matter that we're here for tonight. Not suggesting that any of you would not do that, but every now and then people come on and they want to talk about things totally unrelated to the city's budget. If everyone who wishes to testify would ask that you sign up. When your name is called, it'll be called in the order for which you signed up. You'll be given up to 3 minutes to speak. You may be asked questions by members, may or may not. So we're going to call your name. We have a timer, and when the timer goes off, we'd ask that you please kind of wrap up your testimony, and so we can proceed. And I want to thank you very much in terms of your adherence to the guidelines that we have established. And thank you again very much. Mr. Stitt, please call the first name.
Sure. Dino Rossi, Rashida Phillips, Peter Winslow.
And if you have written testimony that you believe may be longer than 3 minutes, you can just simply pass that to us and we'll make sure it's written into the document so all of your testimony in its entirety will be reflected in the record.
Muriel McCarthy.
Yeah, Miles, come on up.
Good afternoon. My name is Rashida Phillips. I'm the managing attorney of the housing unit at Community Legal Services, which provides free legal advice and representation to over 3,000 low-income tenants per year. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. Each year, tens of thousands of households face adverse actions related to their rental housing, including lockouts and other forms of illegal eviction. According to studies and reports by the Reinvestment Fund and the city's assessment of fair housing, eviction rates are highest in Philadelphia's poor and predominantly black neighborhoods, while evictions disproportionately impact poor communities of color. Gentrification is ravaging our communities. A recent study published by the National Community Reinvestment Coalition showed that from 2000 to 2013, due to rapidly rising rents, property values, and taxes, more than 12,000 African Americans in Philadelphia moved out of gentrifying neighborhoods. As the report notes, the large number of neighborhoods that gentrified and the number of displaced residents ranked Philadelphia among the worst cities for black displacement. This tells us that we not only have a poverty crisis impacting our city's most vulnerable residents, but that we have a very serious race equity problem impacting black residents' access to housing in particular. Beyond the damage to individuals and families who are thrust into poverty and homelessness, evictions and forced displacement unravels the fabric of a community, helping to ensure that neighbors remain strangers and that their collective capacity to promote civic engagement remains untapped. In 2017, the city heard from some of its most vulnerable residents demanding equal access to justice in eviction court. With the support of City Council, the Mayor, and the Department of Housing and Community Development, the Philadelphia Eviction Prevention Project, also known as PEP, was launched in January 2018 with funding of $500,000 and a critical increase in funding in FY2019 to $950,000. PEP is a collaboration of 6 outstanding nonprofits. And in establishing that program, we joined dozens of cities and states around the country who are exploring similar eviction prevention and legal representation pilot programs or who have made the bold leap to pass legislation providing universal access to attorneys for tenants. PEP has significantly increased services for low-income and vulnerable tenants while helping the city to prevent homelessness. It includes increased representation of tenants by expert public interest and pro bono attorneys, advocacy to help improve court systems and outcomes, a dramatically expanded and accessible tenant hotline, and outreach to individual tenants at risk of eviction. The project vastly expands the Landlord-Tenant Help Center at the Municipal Court and provides for court navigators, a Lawyer of the Day program, and dedicated help center staff. Preliminary findings demonstrate that tenants who saw a PEP advocate are more likely to show up to their court date, win their case, and enter into agreements with their landlords than tenants who did not. Together, we're working to increase and ensure access to justice in the court systems. We're working to ensure that tenants know their rights before they come into contact with the courts, so that credit-damaging eviction filings and default judgments where tenants don't get an opportunity to work out resolutions are reduced. Findings have also shown that only 5% of tenants with representation experience disruptive displacement as compared to 78% of tenants without representation. I'll just wrap up to say that legal aid is an effective tool to fight evictions, and Philadelphia should continue to support the PEP project and increase its budget in order to further the success of the program. We're asking that the city's investment in this project be increased to $1.5 million in the next fiscal year, and the rest of my testimony is sent up to you. Thank you very much.
Make sure we have a copy of your testimony.
Yep, you have a
We'll
copy.
make sure. Thank you.
President Clark and Councilman Greenlee, thank you for providing this opportunity for me to speak to you on behalf of the Philadelphia Public...
Just state your name. Did you state your name for the
I'm
record?
about to.
Okay.
Philadelphia Public Bank Coalition with respect to Resolution 190164. We appreciate more than I have time or ability to express the leadership of Councilman Green as champion of the Philadelphia Public Bank Project. We thank Councilman Green for promoting a study of public banking for the city. And please, don't think of this endeavor as a feasibility study, since the feasibility of public banking is already fully established. Instead, consider it an implementation study to determine how best to launch and roll out a Philadelphia public bank most expeditiously, yet prudently. My name is Peter Winslow. I reside at 7034 Marion Lane in Philadelphia. I'm a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania, where I received a BA in economics and an MBA in finance. I'm a certified public accountant, alumnus of Deloitte. I've taught business, accounting, taxation, finance, and related subjects at Penn, Temple, Rutgers, Cornell, and elsewhere. Consequently, as a finance professional, I understand the budget processes in which you are engaged. Moreover, I empathize with you as you navigate the fiscal constraints imposed by limited revenue with which to address the urgent needs of our city. So I ask you that please relax and set aside for a moment the details of the budget. Instead, let your imagination engage your passions to think about what you can accomplish through a Philadelphia public bank. If Councilwoman Gim were here, I would ask her to imagine how a public bank can provide educational opportunity. Last August, I visited the Bank of North Dakota, a public bank that has been serving the people of that state for the past 100 years. Programs of the Bank of North Dakota provide low-interest college loans for any resident of the state pursuing any educational degree at any qualified institution, in-state or out-of-state, public or private. And anyone from outside North Dakota can also obtain a student loan if they attend a North Dakota school. The programs reach into schools across the state, helping to guide college preparation and selection from the 7th through the 12th grades. Every person I talked to told me how they or a family member had benefited from the student loan programs. Imagine how a Philadelphia public bank can help make higher education available to all Philadelphians. Councilman Clark, imagine how a public bank can empower the $1 billion Philadelphia Energy Campaign. Imagine how a public bank can help us respond to climate disruption by reducing greenhouse gas emissions, building resiliency, and mitigating damage as we transition rapidly from an economy held captive by fossil fuel dependency to a society empowered by renewable energy. If you have not already done so, please sign the Respect the Law pledge that's attached to your copy of my statement.
If you could just summarize.
Okay, there are so many ways in which the public bank can help, and they are in my comments with some specificity. But I would just draw your attention to the embarrassing position that the city finds itself in. Less than 3 months ago, Philadelphia sued Wells Fargo, Barclays, and 5 other banks for antitrust conspiracy to inflate interest rates for more than $1.6 billion of its tax-exempt variable rate demand obligations. Then, just 2 weeks ago, Philadelphia hired these same banks to manage its latest $190 million borrowing of VRDOs. Really? A Philadelphia public bank could have helped keep the investment bank honest, saving hundreds of millions of dollars in interest and fees that were ripped off. Imagine this budget process with hundreds of millions of more dollars available. Make our dreams come true. Make your dreams come true.
Thank you.
Please act expeditiously to give yourselves and the people who depend on you a Philadelphia Public Bank. Thank you.
Just make sure you leave, so you can get your testimony in its entirety. Just leave a copy. We'll make sure.
You have
You already
copies.
have it? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Please.
Good afternoon. My name is Muriel McCarthy, and I am a voter and a taxpayer of Philadelphia. At yesterday's budget hearing, Deputy Commissioner Custodio reported on his work coordinating the training of city staff to test, maintain, and fix Express Vote XL machines that he arranged to be delivered to city property. These machines are These are machines that the city has no contract for and currently not enough funds for. In his report, Deputy Commissioner Custodio stated there is a tight deadline for getting a new voting system in Philadelphia. Despite being an exempt employee of Commissioner Deely, who is recused from participating in any aspect of the procurement process of these new voting machines because of her candidacy status, this Deputy Commissioner appears for all intents and purposes to be acting with the consent of the Board of Elections. In my testimony today in the Sunshine meeting of the Board of Elections, I asked the Board if Mr. Custodio is acting with the consent of the Board. I also asked who is in charge of the procurement process. The Board refused to answer my questions. Contrary to the spirit of the Sunshine Law, Judge Furlong and Judge Campbell made it clear they will not answer questions posed to them by myself and other concerned citizens at the Sunshine meetings. I ask you, City Council members, who is in charge of the procurement process? Is it the Board of Elections? Or is it the exempt employee of Commissioner Deely? Regarding the urgency to push this new voting system onto Philadelphia voters, I ask the City Council members not be fooled by Mr. Custodio's statement that there's not enough time to rescind the decision to purchase the Express Vote XL. We have ample time to make a better decision. Other states and counties in PA and other areas have made voting system procurement choices in less than the time that we have. So be assured that all of the talk you're hearing about it being a mandate, that it has to occur right now, is not accurate. The following steps will get us the voting system we deserve. First, tell the members of the Board of Elections to rescind the selection of the Express Vote XL. Protect Our Vote Coalition and others have provided ample information to you for months about the reasons the Express Vote XL is a dangerous system for Philadelphia. For one reason, it has been tested on just 1,500 voters so far, and we don't want to be guinea pigs. Second, this week, please demand that the Board of Elections begin a new unbiased request for proposal process with a deadline of June 15th. 1 month is enough time for vendors to respond. That's how much time they had previously. The Board of Elections already has the existing RFP and just needs to edit the criteria to make it fair to all vendors as best value procurement requires. The RFP should include all 5 of the certified vendors, including the 2 recently certified. Third, demand that the Board of Elections conduct a public demonstration of these systems within the next 8 weeks and collect public feedback. And fourth, select the appropriate system by July 17th. This is a reasonable amount of time. Commissioner Deely said July was enough time for an April 2020 rollout. It may even be possible for a new voting system to be in place for the November 2019 election. It took Montgomery County 5 months to implement their system. Some counties in Virginia did it in 1 month's time.
Okay.
Philadelphia has the staff and resources to make this happen. Please do that.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Thank you all for your testimony.
Gloria Gilman, Meg Berlin, Timothy Brown.
Good evening.
Good evening. Council, I'm Gloria Gilman. I'm Chair of Philadelphia Neighborhood Networks. I'm here today to list for you some of the illegalities and improprieties in how the system was selected and sold to us by the Commissioner's Office through Lisa Deely and Al Schmidt. The purchase was by a selection system called Best Value. Didn't have to be. The commissioners could have decided to select the voting system by the usual procurement system aimed at choosing the lowest cost. This was the first use of Best Value for a large purpose. The system requires an open, fair, and transparent process. In the beginning of the process, public and expert input should be sought in order to draft the RFP requirements. Neither was done. The secrecy level of this process is contrary to the basic value value requirement for transparency. The time limits we were told about were falsely created and were used to justify skirting all requirements, such as public and expert input and demonstrations of system options. One tenet of Best Value is to avoid favoritism and have a fair and competitive process. The RFP was written for one machine and one vendor, contrary to the Best Value standards. One commissioner has been improperly left out of all information and decision-making, although a properly elected official entitled to that information, as he wouldn't sign this confidentiality document that didn't state its limitations. This document denies an elected official the rights of their office, denies the official their First Amendment rights, and denies the public the right to be represented by all those they elected to serve as city commissioners. Another tenet of basic value is to avoid unethical misconduct. Decision made improperly by two commissioners running for election regarding a voting system intended to be used for their own election. There's plenty of proof that they were running as they had been fundraising well before the decision date, and Deely had a fundraiser the very night of the election, of the decision. At the fundraiser, Democratic Party Chair Brady toasted Deely that he had called her that morning to make sure she would vote correctly for the right system, and then he rewarded her by helping her with her election. He should not have been part of the process. There are questions as to campaign donations having been made to Commissioner Schmidt and Deely from people or organizations connected to this vendor and to unions in this city that could benefit from this decision. Deely and Schmidt stepped down after the vote, but continued to direct their deputies to act in their stead without approval of the constituted Board of Elections. Nick Custodio, deputy to Lisa Deely, supervised 83 machines to be brought onto public property without official permission, as there was no signed contract and as the budget had not been approved by City Council. Said delivery put liability for almost $700,000 on the city. They now say that an agreement was signed waiving some of that liability, but it was not presented to Council or the commissioners for approval. Deely held a press conference where she personally showed the 83 machines and how they work. The only purpose for that timing of that was to be a prop in her election campaign. Her appearance doing that and actually touching the machines to be used in her own election is impermissible by the election code and the ethics code. Deely and Schmidt's deputies, who are exempt employees controlled solely by them, cannot act in their stead while they are not permitted to act, as they are then acting as surrogates and taking direction impermissibly from the candidate commissioners. City commissioners have presented deceptive information to City Council in their testimony about the cost of this purchase, as they are hiding the real costs, not even given estimates of warehousing the machines in a climate-controlled environment. No estimates were given on the numbers of employees and IT experts that will be needed to hire either full-time or temporarily due to this system versus other options considered. No information was given at all to City Council on any other options or the comparative costs. No consideration was given to the cost of leasing for a short period of time to test the system versus purchase. Just a cursory statement that it would not save money. How could that really be? What about the cost if it turns out that voters have too much difficulty using the system, or if the power goes out at polling places so the system goes down and voters are denied access, or as has been warned, the system is hacked, affecting an election outcome because it is so vulnerable? No information has been provided to City Council on the fact that the system cannot be properly audited to be sure that the voter's intent was recorded and used for tally, because the document that is used to determine the voter's intent has not been prepared by the voter, but by a machine that prints out names of candidates and barcodes, codes that only allegedly represent the chosen candidate, and that document, after being checked by the voter, if the voter can remember the names of who they voted for and if they have any idea whether the barcodes relate to the candidates chosen, then goes over a printer head that can make marks on the ballot and change the vote without the voter or anyone else ever knowing it.
Okay, ma'am. You
Okay.
can kind of wrap it up.
Just a couple more things. There are questions.
Very
I am winding up. There are questions about the integrity and honesty of this vendor who's been accused in part of giving inappropriate gifts to governmental decision makers, including paying for and organizing trips, paying for other things, giving jobs to decision makers. This vendor's been involved in election machine problems in the past and has admitted sometimes having retained the ability to communicate with its machines without the knowledge or permission of the governmental entity. This vendor has been known to give political donations in a partisan manner. Despite all of these allegations,
Ma'am, you got to really.
as to the integrity, one second, and please, and the reliability of the vendor, no information's been
Really, you
given.
need to wrap it up. Okay, thank you.
Just
Ma'am, you know.
one sentence.
I'm giving you way your time.
Advocates and the controller
We
Reinhardt.
Ma'am, we got to go to the next person. You can't just keep going and going. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay.
Proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Meg Berlin, and I live, vote, and pay taxes in Wash West. Thank you for the opportunity to testify before you on the subject of the Commissioner's decision to purchase the Express Vote XL. Yesterday, 11 weeks after the vote, the public finally learned the cost of the new voting machines. On the day of the vote, Commissioner Dealey told the Inquirer that the cost would be $20 to $27 million. That's a pretty big range. So is the price $20 million? Not even close. It's going to be nearly $30 million for the voting machines and another $2.5 million for the poll books. Nearly $32 million on upfront hardware costs alone. New York, Boston, Baltimore all vote using hand-marked paper ballots scanned by an optical scanner. If Philly did the same thing, it would cost us $15 million less. Let those numbers sink in. You'll be spending nearly $32 million. You could be spending $15 million less. That's $15 million that could be used to fund our schools, roads, city infrastructure, and services that the citizens need. Your work takes you all around the city. You know its needs. You've been in our schools. $15 million could do a lot of good in dozens of neighborhoods. We can't lose sight of what is being lost here. We are giving up $15 million so we can put 32-inch touchscreens in front of voters twice a year. That's not the best value. It's not in Philly's best interests. You have the power to deny funding for this project. This is, after all, a budget committee meeting. If you need more information, Protect Our Vote Philly coalition members have it, and we're willing to spend whatever time you need. You can do two things. You can withhold funding for this system. You can use the bully pulpit. When Mayor Nutter made decisions with which you disagreed, you didn't hesitate to criticize him. What's different now? There is still time to do a new RFP to choose the system that is more secure and will save us $15 million in taxpayer dollars. Spend taxpayer money wisely. Withhold funding for this system until a less expensive and more secure system, which should have been selected in the first place, is chosen. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your testimony. Sir.
President Clark, My name is Tim Brown. I'm from Philly Neighborhood Networks, and I spent 15 years traveling the country as a computer consultant, and there was a lot of questions about this voting machine, so I wanted to explain in layman's terms the inherent danger to using this express vote machine. The first thing you need to understand is that it does not produce a ballot. It produces a list of names, similar to the receipt you get at a supermarket. The actual ballot is the one that the voter casts when they touch the touchscreen machine. Then the machine generates what they're calling a summary ballot that the voter is now required to verify for accuracy. Okay? You with me so far? Here's the problem. The commissioner's argument is that everyone is going to verify this ballot and everything is going to be hunky-dory. But the problem is that people don't verify their votes. In December 2018, the Georgia Institute of Technology released a quantitative analysis of ballot verification using the express vote machine, which demonstrated that 47% of voters did not look at the summary card before submitting it, and the other 53% reviewed the card for an average of 3.9 seconds. And this is the crux of the problem here. Half the voters are not even bothering to verify the receipt. That's an unacceptable potential for error. And if you think this is all hypothetical, here's a real-world example for you. The 2018 contest between Ted Cruz and Beto O'Rourke, 8 million votes were cast, and it was decided by 215,000 votes. That's a margin of victory of just 3%. 3%, 47%. So you can start to see where the problem lies here. But it gets worse. In that race, the Texas Tribune confirmed that some voters were reporting that when they voted the straight Democratic ticket, the machine was flipping O'Rourke votes to Ted Cruz. Okay? Now, some people caught the error, but this begs the question, how many of those 4 million Democrats did not carefully read their ballot? Do you think it was more than 3%? And let's bring it home to Philadelphia. Right here in Pennsylvania, the 2016 presidential contest was decided by 44,292 votes. That's 0.72%. Now, we all know that Philadelphia is the linchpin for Pennsylvania politics, and Pennsylvania decides the presidency. So you have to think here, do we really want our city to be the guinea pigs for this company's machines? Now, we could have a new process in place and still be ready by November if the commissioners would stop dragging their feet while simultaneously complaining that they don't have enough time. They're trying to run out the clock on us here so that we're stuck with a deal that they made. Please, don't let them get away with this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, sir.
Joy Hockman. It's Hockman, sorry. Vicky, forgive me, I'm trying to pronounce it. I'm going to spell your last name. S-E-I-T-C-H-I-K? Sychik. Nice. Scott McCarthy.
Hi, I'm glad
Good
I'm,
evening.
thank
Good
you.
evening.
Joy Hockman. I'm glad I'm coming after those three, because they know a lot more than I do. So I want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak today. I will definitely be brief. I live in Philadelphia, I worked here, I pay taxes here. I am learning all about these machines as an interested private citizen. Just as many, or most, of council members probably are too. I wish there were more here, so I hope you spread the word of all that we're saying today. Okay, when I put together what I learned at a Sunshine meeting and what I learned from attending the city council meeting yesterday regarding the voting system, it is obvious to me that we, the people, and city council, the Philadelphia City Commissioner's office, need more time to investigate the issues involved in choosing a cost-effective and reliable voting machine system. To mention just two issues. One is going to be about money, and the other about potential for hacking and also mistakes. One, we need to be transparent as we clarify the true costs of this particular system, the one we've been looking at, especially as compared to other systems. That seems basic. Has that been done? Have we compared systems? Also, we need to be realistic about the interest that we're going to need to pay on the possibly $20 million loan that the city would have to take out. Second, We desperately need to learn more about how little we can rely on this system to provide us with an auditable paper trail, something that is clearly essential these days. I'm no expert on this, so I will leave the details to those who are. We've just heard some of them speak. But what I do know is that we need to make public what knowledge has already been uncovered about this system. It does not leave a reliable, auditable paper trail. After being kind of smacked in the face by these two big issues and others, it seems that we must not complete this agreement or fund it. Instead, we must take the time to investigate other systems. As my grandson would say, it's a no-brainer. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Please self-select.
Okay, my name is Vicki Sychik. I'm just coming here to give you a snapshot of what a voter thinks because I just learned about this a few weeks ago. And then I've been talking about it with people. And this is the snapshot. You say it can be hacked. And people say, okay. You say it's very expensive. It's more expensive than any of the other machines that were proposed. Not so good. And then it's going to be a completely new system for all of the voters coming in. And it's going to be confusing. And it's going to have to be a learning curve. People are not going to know that they're coming to vote and be presented with this. And how do you do it? So are you going to have a person trained per machine to teach me how to use it? And how long is that going to take? And how upsetting will it be? And how long will the lines be? So I just ask you, if you go out into the street and say, I have to vote on budgeting money for a machine that can be hacked, it's too expensive, and will cause confusion in the next elections, what do you think the person in the street's going to say? Because I haven't heard, when I talk about this, anybody saying that sounds like a great idea.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you. My name is Scott McCarthy. I'd like to clarify for the record why the Express Vote XL is not the most accessible voting system for persons with disabilities. The Express Vote XL is less accessible to voters with disabilities than other touchscreen voting systems. The Pennsylvania Department of State Certification Report on Touchscreen Voting Machines lists major accessibility flaws with the Express Vote XL that makes it an unacceptable choice for voters with vision, hearing, cognitive, and mobility challenges. Some of the examples from the report. Ballots couldn't be verified. Quoting from the report, none of the participants were able to verify their paper ballot on the XL. The XL has inconsistent navigation and poor instructions. Again, quoting from the report, every participant had at least one problem, despite relatively high election knowledge and digital experience, suggesting that the issue would be more severe for voters without the personal resources to help them understand what is happening. Other issues. The XL led to confusing selection, deselection processes when using straight party voting. Again, quoting from the report. In some cases, this led voters to cast a ballot without knowing all of the candidates that had been selected. With regard to the machine not being able to read party affiliations in the audio ballot, the report states, this made it impossible to complete tasks based on party, including confirming straight party selections. Blind participants were not sure what was happening during the ballot printing process. To quote from the report, they did not know where the ballot was or what to do next. Lastly, from the report, there were many problems with the screen design. Again, quoting from the report, on the XL, selecting large text changes the XL screen changes the XL screen to a contest-by-contest display, but does not make the text size very much larger. This forces low vision users who simply need slightly larger text into using the audio ballot. One participant with very low vision put his face so close to the screen that he accidentally made selections with his nose. All voters should be able to vote privately and independently, including voters with a wide variety of disabilities and challenges. No single voting method now exists that can meet all accessibility needs. Universal accessibility means allowing voters to choose the method that is most accessible for them. Having both hand-marked paper ballots and one ballot marking device in every division is more universally acceptable. Providing touchscreens for all voters would not enfranchise more voters than hand-marked paper ballots with a ballot marking device in each polling place. It would, however, disenfranchise and harm many voters both with and without disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for your testimony. Appreciate it.
Jennifer Musumeci? Musumeci. Jen DeVore. Cora Turpin. Denise Ripley.
Hi,
evening.
good evening. My name is Jen DeVore, and I live in the 2nd Council District. Full disclosure, I'm also currently a candidate for City Commissioner, but today I'm testifying as a concerned citizen.
Thank you for that disclosure.
What's that?
I say thank you for your disclosure.
Thank you. There has never been a more timely period in our history for Philadelphia to carefully consider if and how we are safeguarding our votes. The Pennsylvania Department of State's mandate to replace our current electronic voting machines with new systems has reinforced the fact that counties and states must safeguard against the very real threat of election interference and influence. There are many reasons why Philadelphia leaders, including members of this body, should reject the decision made by the Commissioner's Office to buy the ExpressVote XL machines. Most importantly, the ExpressVote XL system does not allow voters to verify their paper ballot. According to leading national experts, the most secure and reliable way to record votes is to let voters hand-mark paper ballots. It is estimated that Philadelphia will spend at least $15 million more to buy these machines over a paper ballot and scanner system, which are vulnerable to hacking and election interference, than if the city chooses more secure systems. The high estimated, and I stress estimated, costs of these machines raises an alarming amount of concern and is being investigated by both Pennsylvania General Auditor DePasquale and City Controller Reinhardt. It is irresponsible for City Council to approve the Commissioner's budget request until more information is provided, until the actual cost of buying the ExpressVote XL machines, not just this year, but moving forward. I request that members of City Council who are present here today and beyond ask for further clarity about the estimated costs associated with storage, maintenance, transportation needs, and expected lifetime of machines. In addition, City Council must also consider the cost of a climate-controlled, dust-free warehouse, question why we are only signing a one-year contract and purchasing agreement, and why the Commissioners haven't considered a lease-to-own option. At a time when there are serious budget needs facing our city, I believe it is irresponsible for City Council to approve the budget request without more information. And frankly, as the parent of a public school child, I find it especially concerning that the city hasn't allocated much-needed resources to prevent our children from being exposed to dangerous health hazards in our classrooms, but is seemingly poised to approve spending at least $15 million more for a voting machine that every election expert says is the worst possible choice for our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Please proceed.
Hi, my name is Denise Ripley. I'm a block captain. How you doing, Darrell Clark?
How are you?
Council President.
Sorry.
You know me for years. I'm very concerned. I'm a block captain. I'm a judge of election. I'm a community leader. I do a lot of things for my community. My concern is the taxes and being a homeowner. I'm very concerned because I went through this before, and the other residents that I'm living on the block with, we all moved into new homes, and we seem to be look like we're going right back in the same position. But it's with the taxes, we're going to be it looks like they're trying to tax us out of a community as a stakeholder. I don't think that's fair, and I think you as a council person, we've been long time constituents of yours, and I think you should place something like grandfather something and that we don't, like long-time homeowners not be taxed out of community that we have cared for. I'm like, it's something that can be done, placed in legal terms. I don't know all the legal terms, but I know I have a right to stay in a community that I pay my taxes. I do things to enhance the community, and I believe the other people that's in my community, they do the same thing. The people on my block, and I go around. I do a lot. My words might not be coming out the way they should, but I'm very concerned about being displaced out of community that I have been committed to, trying to make it a better environment for my kids and the community. I do the food program, the summer lunch program, right now I'm volunteering in ARP in the public school, tutoring kindergartens. But I keep coming back to home ownership, taking care of where I live. And now with all this gentrification, it seems like we may be pushed out, because every time I look at my taxes, I'm on a payment plan to pay my taxes, but I'm still getting into debt that I can't afford to pay because I'm low income, and the other people that live in my community or some low income family is in the same position. Why am I paying taxes on a installment plan, but it's still putting me in debt where I may be able to lose my home? And I'm asking you, could you put something in place that I not lose my home and my other residents in my community of North Philadelphia? Because I know the history. Cecil B. Moore walking around at Girard College to make sure that children that live in that community be able to go to that school. It's important that because you know the history, because you've been there the same way, and I want you to make sure that we as residents, people are committed to that community, be able to stay in that community. And that's what I ask of you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Good evening.
I'm Dr. Cora Turpin. I have lived in Philadelphia many, many years. I'm here about the concern for real estate taxes, the AVI. Not only is it the lower income people being affected, but the middle income people who have paid taxes and worked all their lives are being forced into foreclosure, especially after they reach the age where they're on a fixed income. I have here the request that we have made. We, the undersigned citizens of the city of Philadelphia, respectfully request that City Council create a real estate tax freeze for all seniors 65 years or older who reside in Philadelphia and own their own homes and are on fixed incomes. Now, we said 65, and we didn't include the people who are also on fixed incomes for other reasons, disability for one. This AVI is based on construction cost. They are building in our neighborhoods huge, expensive buildings, even on the grounds that were once green for lawns, that are raising our taxes to the point where we cannot afford our homes. I am asking your help. You made me understand by previous kinds of testimony that we have to go to the state level, but I don't need just hearsay or a pat on the head. We need your support in getting that income level to be just your 65 years of age and not limit that income level, because you're not raising the funding fast enough to help people on middle incomes. Yes, you raised it from 31 to 91,000, but the 91 also needs to have monies appropriated by the city. If you just put a freeze on that for people 65 and older, you don't have to worry about funding from other sources. We need your help. We need it yesterday. Where I live, they have gentrified to such a level that almost every old person who's not a veteran there is on the verge of losing their homes. And I appreciate your listening. I hope to see some action in the future. And yes, I will be here begging for as long as this AVI stays in place. It is unsustainable, especially for people who worked in Philadelphia and are getting retirements based on what you paid us in this city. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for your testimony. Appreciate
And this
it.
is for you.
Thank you. Make sure we'll get it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Vicky Goldstein. Bo Dernbach.
No. Oh, okay. All right. Go to Bo.
Is Bo here?
Yes.
Oh.
Is that it?
This good?
Is there anybody else that signed up? Anybody else signed up for testifying? All right. Somebody that's signed in. Thank you. Please proceed.
Hi.
How are
Good
you?
evening, Councilman Clark. My name is Bo Dierenbach. I'm in the Steering Committee of Neighborhood Networks, and I'd like to head my remarks why the Express Vote XL by ES&S should be rejected by City Council. Any voting machine that prints out a paper receipt is fundamentally not auditable, including the XL. Why is that? Assume for the moment that some XL machines are infected with malware. Even machines not connected to the internet can be infected by corrupted memory cards, flash drives, CD-ROMs, or the software that ES&S downloads could be hacked, infected. Number one, the XL allows the voter to auto-cast a ballot without checking the paper receipt the machine would normally print out. My colleague Tim pointed out almost half of voters do that in one study. An infected XL could then cast spurious votes for that voter, and no one would know, and no one could find out in an audit. Auditing these votes would be like checking a story in the Daily News by buying another copy of that paper and comparing one issue with the other. You'd be checking a false machine result against a false printout. This feature alone should disqualify the XL. Number two, voters often leave some ballot positions blank. That is, it's undervoting. An infected XL could vote for the voter after the paper ballot has been inspected, so-called ballot stuffing. Again, there's no way to catch these spurious votes with an audit. Number three, most ballot marking devices that are intended for use as a primary voting system put barcodes on the paper printouts. The XL does. These purport to encapsulate the voter selections. Even though voters can't read barcodes, the barcodes are the only portion of the printout counted as their votes. The barcodes can be maliciously programmed to instruct the scanners to flip votes. What's the best type of voting machine? An optical scanner that will read the voter's intent on a Scantron form, but not make any marks on the ballot. Thus, if that machine were infected, its results could be compared to the pristine ballots, which would not be infected by voting machine malware. The only wise conclusion is to say no to the Express Vote XL, and there's more information by voting expert Jennifer Cohn, C-O-H-N, in her article, New Hybrid Voting Systems Can Change Paper Ballot After It's Been Cast. Paper ballots are safe only if marked by hand, not by machine. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
Maybe I
We'll
can
make sure.
leave this to-
Thank you, sir. All right, that concludes our public testimony. I want to thank you all very much for coming down. We'll make sure that as we make our final decision on the budget process, your testimony will be taken into account. Again, thank you. Thank you for your commitment to the city of Philadelphia. Appreciate it. This concludes the committee. We will stand in recess until Tuesday, May 14, 2019 at 10 a.m., at which time we will reconvene in room 400 City Hall. Thank you.